So, I'm Charlotte. We've been here in the creation space for the last 5 days, and it's sort of the middle of our creation period for a piece called Walking Stories, which is an audio walk. It's designed for many people to do together in green spaces, parks or woodlands, and it's part of a broader project that I've devised called Cycle Stories. And Cycle Stories is a series of creative residencies that we're using to make this audio walk, and they're linked together by bicycle. So we started it just over a month ago in Caen, in France, and we were there for a week, and then we came back into England, up to London, and then down to Kent and across Kent and Sussex into Hampshire, and today we leave towards Bristol. And so part of my interest when I was setting up this project was kind of to expose creative processes a little bit more. So whilst a lot of our attention is on making this audio walk, which is quite has quite a tangible outcome, I guess, because it's a product that is going to tour, I also wanted to expose the process that we go through, because often I think creative processes are hugely rich and so much fascinating stuff happens that then doesn't end up in the final products of work. And that's why I wanted Cycle Stories to also be kind of a work in its own right. So it's sort of like a long durational piece of artistic work, and we're in it all the time. We're cycling from place to place to keep that feeling of continuity, but also for me there was lots of quite purposeful reasons for the cycling. One was about building community within us as a group of artists, so that our time together is not just about the bubbles of artistic residencies, but all the time in between as well. Because I've found over the years that often the real gems or the kind of really important turning points in making work happen in between, not necessarily in the studio space, but in the conversation that you have afterwards or over dinner. And so if we're cycling together and moving together, then there's more opportunity for that. I also felt that because with the audio walk it's an hour-length piece, and part of its premise is to invite people to spend an hour in a more green landscape and to be walking through it. And if we're asking our audience to spend time zooming into the landscape that surrounds them, then I wanted the whole of our process to be in keeping with that as well. And so the cycling keeps us closer to the ground. We see the landscape changing between each place, and so we're sort of on a bigger scale doing the same kind of process that we're inviting our audience to do. And on a kind of really practical level as well, because the process of making an audio walk is a lot of time in front of a computer and kind of scripts and timings and quite meticulous work that's quite static. I felt that the cycling would be really good to just keep us moving, keeps our kind of flow going. Yeah, and then there was also a strong environmental consideration for me, which is always present in work that I make and how I live, I guess. And I wanted to push that a little bit further, I guess. I often notice that, I guess as an artist, I'm interested and curious to tour, but often that touring feels like it's quite incongruous with my with sort of how I look at the world. It's quite energy intensive, often a lot of flying and a lot of long distance travelling, and I wondered if there was a way of touring that would be much lower impact on the environment, and so cycling became part of that as well.